Welcome, everyone. I'm currently away on vacation and we'll be back Wednesday, October 22nd. Today, your host will be Larry Goldberg. Larry co-founded several companies and is now an active venture capital investor.
And welcome to Brighter with Herbert. Herbert's not here, but we're still going to get brighter because we've got Joe Bhakti with us. And I'm your host, Larry Goldberg. And you've seen me often enough. You don't need any introductions. And I don't need to introduce Joe Bhakti because he's very well known to you. So, hi, Joe.
Hi, Larry. This is very exciting, even though, of course, we miss Herbert. He's in the Far East and watches us
Who
from
misses
afar.
Herbert? I don't miss Herbert at all.
And he's probably not missing us. He's sitting on some beautiful mountain and watching it on his iPhone, maybe. So it's great to be here, Larry. Very excited about this show.
Yeah, and I'm on the road, so I'm traveling and I'm using a friend's office somewhere in Florida. And so everything is not exactly perfect, but I'm here.
You have a very cool Chinese painting in the back, or is it Japanese?
Yeah, it's the new Silk Road deal. So, Joe, it's a kind of red letter day today, right?
It's wild. There are so many news all in one day. We have version 14 FSD coming out. And of course, we have that very exciting launch that no one knows what's going to happen with the affordable model. Maybe the Roadster, maybe a fan. No one knows. I think it's going to be a affordable model.
Pretty wild guesses, but my guess is it's Roadster. But, could be the less expensive Model Y, Model 2, whatever you want to call it, Model Q. So what do you make of the FSD 14 launch, Joe?
Well, I think when we have these FSD version step-ups, this is a very important step up because it's not 13.645 or something, it's version 14. And there is some significance in these numbers, right? So Tesla doesn't randomly say it's version 12 and then 13 without a reason. If it's incremental, it would have been 13.719 or whatever, but it's 14. And Elon made very clear this is a huge step forward into that future that we are all anticipating. Some people are speculating that version 15 is basically more or less perfection, where you have real, total, full self-driving. So we are one big, step up away from that final thing. Now, my perspective on these versions is that they are more exciting for fans, for Tesla owners, than for institutional shareholders, because we are not in speculatory, world anymore. We have Robotaxi launched, it's live, and now the analysts are just going to look at the real facts on the ground. Are we expanding cities? Are we expanding reach? And are we removing safety drivers? They are not going to pay too much attention to these versions because they say, show me the money. If it's so great, remove the safety driver and make it free for all. So I think it's not a big stock mover, but it gives us a great insight. Us who are a little bit more on top of it, more insight where we are going. And so I think it's an important indicator that gives us potential alpha as, more sophisticated shareholders and traders to see, wait, let's observe how this is going, because we can triangulate and project the acceleration of Robotaxi with this.
Yeah, it ultimately is truly alpha if we perceive the improvement is moving us towards that moment when Robotaxi is going to, become independent, and suddenly the analysts are going to wake up to what we already know. But I think the jury will remain out until we've had everybody really tested and stress tested. I mean, some nice features. For me, the big issue is Cybertruck. Does it catch up? Does it get version 14? Is the version 14 at the same level as version 14? And it doesn't mean much to the stock, I will freely admit, but it means a lot to me because I do a lot of miles in my Cybertruck. I'm in Florida right now. I'm on my way back to North Carolina, and then I'm heading off for Austin right after that. So thousands of miles behind me. And, I love to get 14.1 on my Cybertruck.
So, well, who knows if this is coming? I'm not a Cybertruck expert. I know it lags sometimes with these updates, but let's see.
Well, it doesn't actually lag the updates. It actually gets the same numbered updates, but they're not as dialed in uh, for the Cybertruck as they are for the other, the Y and the 3 and the X and the S. So, and that's quite a significant issue for those few drivers that actually drive a Cybertruck. Hopefully, that will expand in due course. So, have you seen any of the videos yet?
No, I was too busy watching all the teasers for the launch and commenting on the stock and figuring out what I do with my in the money short puts that I put on last week for, capturing that run up, which worked to some extent. I exited yesterday, so I was a little distracted. I just saw version 14 launching, and so I have to do some catch up. I saw that there's some talk about parking spot selection and parking quality. I think Sawyer Merritt talked about this.
Well, it's more than even parking quality. It's selection of how to end the drive. It's also automatic parking directly into, for example, a charging spot. So, the very first drive I did with 13 point whatever it was, I was driving my wife's new Model 3 on a road trip and pulled into the supercharger lot. It kind of selected which supercharger stop to stop at on the road, pulled into the lot, and actually parked itself perfectly into a charging spot. Since that moment, it's never done it for me again. But it was quite an eye-opener. But apparently it'll do that now, and you can select how to end the drive. So that's just what I read, and I've seen a few videos that people have posted of their first drives. Pretty, the truth is that the current version, you probably on an average drive would get the same video result because it is really, really good, except for, a very limited number of issues, which many have been, I don't know if all, but certainly many have been addressed by this version 14.1 at least.
Yeah, I see that Zach on X is posting this first drive of FSD version 14.1 done, and he's talking about some differences over the last build, and he said more linear braking and throttle. But more importantly for me, I'm thinking more commercially about stocks and robotaxi.
Right.
He talks about pulled into supercharger at the diner and backed in perfectly. When I navigated there, it knew it was a supercharger and said charger under the profile. These are very important details because if you have a robotaxi fleet, you can't manually steer them to charging. So that's more interesting for me. You see continuous progress with these updates, also on an infrastructure level for maintenance, for charging, and all these things. So,
well, it's also very important to know that you can nominate how you want to terminate the drive, because when you're calling a robotaxi, you'll want to tell robotaxi where to pull in, whether to pull into the driveway, whether to park on the outside, whether to stop for you on the outside, and so on. So this is a very good indicator of really good, that's what Waymo's terrible at. Waymo will park wherever it wants to park, and you'll have to walk half a block or 2 blocks to get to it. It looks to me like they've kind of, improved upon that by having this ability to nominate park this particular place or pick me up at this particular spot, which is going to be darn important. So you went short. You sold some puts in advance of the event, and you closed the position
yesterday night.
Yeah, very nicely done. And what do you think's happening now in the world of Tesla stock?
Yeah, I just had a video out right before we recorded this for today, because I think we are going through a very eventful days and weeks right now. And what we saw last week is stock run up and then started dropping, which is always important on a very tactical level for Tesla stock. Once it loses momentum, don't try to get it back, right? So it was dropping and dropping to 415 and then bouncing back to 430, but I saw the airs out of this thing. And then the news dropped that they're actually launching the affordable model tonight. And that was my speculation, very informed speculation before they dropped it, that I was betting that this is going to happen in the first 2 weeks of October, or first like by October 16th. I was very high conviction that this was going to happen. And that's why I put on this additional trade to my core position, where I said, this is just too good. No one sees it coming, at least not the big traders or investors. Let's put a position on. And I chose in the money short puts because that was the best deal, I thought, right? Because, calls,
Right.
you're losing premium, and I don't want to go into margins or something. So it was something, given the situation, I think was the right move. Then we saw this crazy run up yesterday based on the news, the excitement into this event. But I also, focused on X and saw all the chatter around it. And it was very clear at the end of the day, okay, this ran up a lot from, 430 all the way to 453. And then I was thinking, I also published a video on my exact expectations on pricing, on COGS, on reduction of COGS, what's reasonable, and how the lease price will change. And the more I did that, the more I came to the conviction that the price will come in between 34,900 of the affordable model and 39,000. Towards 39,000 is going to be a disappointment, because we are at 44,500 now, and the tax credit was 7,500. So, even at 35,000, you're only 2,500 cheaper than before the, tax credit expiration. So I think we are setting up a little bit for a disappointment, even though I think the affordable model launch is very important. But from a stock investor perspective, I mean, what is going to happen tonight? Where's the surprise? We will have this thing, and it's going to be priced pretty as expectations would suggest. And that means the sell-off is more likely than not. And now today we see the sell-off already in anticipation. So now we don't even have alpha in the sell-off sense, right? Now I'm not even confident anymore it sells off tomorrow. And so all the alpha is gone. And so I think it's good that I took it off the table. I also sold yesterday night, my time, like in Europe. So 15 minutes before close, I sold some 480 calls. Not too many covered calls, because I think weekly calls, so they're expiring on Friday. They had a huge premium for 480. I will hold them through the event, very likely, depending where the stock goes now. And so my only bet that I have active is that the stock is not going to exceed 480 by Friday.
Yeah.
And I think that if it does, I make so much money, I don't care that I lose some upside. So that's how I think about it. And I think it's extremely unlikely. I think, if we end up being at 435 or whatever, end of day today, we're just going to stay there probably. If we're at 440, maybe we sell off a little bit, unless they pull some magic rabbit out of the hat. But
it can happen with Tesla. Tesla have a bad habit, really shocking habit of doing that from time to time.
Well, but this time there's one last reason why I don't think they're going to pull a rabbit out of the hat. This launch is very important in terms of PR, because now for the first time, Tesla really has to make huge inroads into the normie land. People who haven't heard of Tesla, people who want an affordable car. So they need the PR, they need to be focused on this event, and they need to get press coverage. And so that makes it, for me, less likely that they are going to distract from the core message.
Yeah.
Right? For example, by launching version 3 of Optimus or launching the Roadster, I think that would be very dumb. And I think they will stick to the message. Here's an affordable Tesla. You can buy it now. It's $299 or $399 or $345 per month. Please tell.
I think the lease rate is more important actually than the retail price.
Yeah.
Because this is a car that will be leased probably far higher percentage than they've had leased in the past.
Yes, and I showed some black finance magic on Sunday on the lease. If it's 34,500, you can reduce the lease price by 42% because it's black magic. Because it's about residual value that is higher with these cheaper models, and that really changes the monthly price. So you could go from $520 to $299, which is a dramatic 42% drop, right? Much more than the retail price.
Yeah, and Elon has got this very high conviction on robotaxi. And this is the ideal vehicle, one of the ideal vehicles, Cybercab being the other, to put onto a robotaxi service, because you're going to have 4 or 5 seater, a percentage of 4 or 5 seaters. And so it could be that this is, the car for that particular purpose. And in which case the residual value issue is really, very handy from a leasing perspective.
Yes, plus on top of it, I think they can even get to $199, not now, but
wow,
in the next 3 months or something, because if robotaxi succeeds and becomes something a lot of people talk about, it drives FSD adoption, and FSD 99 a month. So even if you drive it from currently 15% adoption or something to 50, that's another $49 a month on top of this lease price, which is 100% margin more or less. And so that changes the equation. So I think there is interesting leeway.
I became very bullish. I'm a Tesla bull, but I'm a considered Tesla bull. But I became very bullish when in the third quarter of last year, Elon changed his tune and became bullish and talked about a new era. I just felt very confident that he was very confident that the strategy that they were beginning to realize their strategic move. Look, he made a very gutsy decision 2 years ago, whether you agree with it or not, that he was no longer in the auto business, that he was moving into the AI business, which we'll discuss in a later show, but also that he was moving into the robotaxi business. And he is realizing his AI through the robotaxi business and Optimus. I just felt that the stock had been sold off too much and that there was a huge opportunity. And, given with 1 or 2 blips, it's been the right strategy. Well, has been the right strategy, obviously, because the price is very high. The question I would pose to you now is, where to now? Let's talk about the next year or 2 and give us your sense.
Yeah, I'm a pretty, I'm similar to CERN, Basher, with my models. We arrived to completely independently. We arrived at very similar targets for 2030, which are pretty high, $8,000 on I don't know what his latest target is, but he's somewhere around there. And the way I arrived there is with a pretty conservative discounted cash flow model that looks forward 10 years at each year. So 2030 would anticipate all the way to 2040. And it's conservative because it's only 10 years, it's discounted, plus risk discounted on top of it. But when you look at the potential here, I think the main driver behind Tesla, besides, of course, Elon and his ability to think in first principles and predict the future, is that we live and enter the age of AGI, not just AI, AGI, and that people still completely misunderstand what that means, how enormous this is, and how far in we are already into the age of AGI. I made this video beginning like in January this year that I said we already have entered the singularity. And the singularity is technically very easy to describe. It's the point in time where AGI starts self-improving, right? And this is not a point in time, it's a continuum. Because at the moment where the humans that improve the AI use a significant share of that improvement, utilize and leverage AI, you are entering the singularity. And that might take 3 years or something before the humans are fully out. It might take 10 years. But you're going from 100% humans working on AI to 99, to 90, to 80, to 70, to 1%. And we are already in that, I think, a very significant chunk, maybe even 50% of the whole feedback loop part is already AI driven. And so this leads to massive acceleration of this thing. What does it all mean? It means that things that seem to be impossible, like robotaxi and self-driving cars in the real world, become possible much faster than people think. Same for Optimus. not just for the brains of the robots, but also for the hardware. Because when you think about how these things are engineered, the supply chains, the material science, all these things, everything gets massively accelerated right now. And I see it in my business. We are looking at software development and financial things. Everything gets massively accelerated with these models right now.
Yeah. What gives me pause, and this is not dissimilar to CERN, it's not dissimilar to ARK Invest, but what gives me some pause is that it doesn't only accelerate for Tesla or XAI, it accelerates for everybody, and so it becomes commoditized very much faster, and so competition becomes much fiercer sooner. And so the question is, is that a limiting factor on return on investment? Is that a potential, are we seeing the potential for a rise of a third, fourth, or fifth, competitor who's very strong, as we've seen in China? We've seen, a plethora of these EVs with extremely, capable systems, some of which are already doing robotaxis. So that's the only thing that leads to some concern in terms of these very high valuations. Nonetheless, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, my take on this, Larry, it's a very good point, but my take on it is no, it's not a problem. And the reason is that in the age of AGI, it's also why we founded pioneerlands.net. Go there and you can see amazing things. It's free. What I call the pioneers and the age of pioneers. Once you are entering that phase where things become incredibly easier to engineer, where reality itself becomes engineerable to a much greater extent than before, what happens is that the entire value chain and logic of value creation shifts towards the benefit of people like Elon, people who are very good in thinking and projecting and simulating in first principles the possible futures that exist. And things accelerate, and it's an unlimited blue ocean. It's not just self-driving. All these new platforms unlock huge blue oceans of stuff that we can't even imagine right now. What does it mean to have autonomous transport, cheap, all over the place? Not just personal transport and people, it's also goods, it's also meta economies on top of it. The same and even more is true for robots. The same and even more is true for AGI cloud models. So what you need is people who envision that future, who think economically, who understand what is actually possible, what is the big bang for each thing, and do this continuously, and then have the Elon Musk mind to really break it down into key levers and launching these models. And I think the Chinese are not that good at this stuff, right? They are better at, once something is clear, to optimize it. Elon is one of the greatest minds in actually reimagining reality, fundamentally. And this is not a one-off anymore. He has to do this constantly because it evolves so fast.
He doesn't just reimagine it, he bends it. He doesn't just reimagine reality, he bends reality to his will.
Exactly. Yeah, but it's a process. That's what I focus on for a very long time, to try to figure out what that process exactly is, so we can actually train it, teach it, and become better. And it is just a process. It starts with imagination, like what is possible. Then it continues with simulation. Okay, if I can imagine that, but is it true? Will it be true? And is it the best possible solution? Putting economics into it, simulating the whole thing, coming to the conclusion, what is actually the key lever here? What will work? And then starting to systematically engineer it and iteratively make it happen. And Elon has this whole process down with SpaceX, with Grok, with Tesla. And that process is what actually is the gold in here. And that entire process is now accelerated dramatically with AGI. So that's why I think that's what I'm betting on with Tesla. I'm betting on them staying ahead, because the leader of Tesla, Elon, is very good in this reimagination and implementation process. And not many people are good at that.
Very good. So we'll leave it there, Joe. It's a pretty exciting future you've drawn. I guess you can go to powerlands.net to read up about it, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yes, we will. It was great, Larry. The future stays exciting.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.